Bank of York Mellon is the world's largest custodian bank with over $35 trillion in assets under custody. BNY had to understand the data flow across its business units. They invested in the Informatica cloud data management platform to understand business glossary and data lineage and to enhance its data quality and integration flows. Here to tell the tale is Michael King, director at BNY within the Enterprise Data Governance Group. He is well known in the data governance community, having been published on topics including LIBOR, GDPR, and financial services regulations over the past 30 years. Let's welcome Mike to the stage.
So just a quick introduction to who I am. I'm Mike King. I'm a director of data governance at BNY Mellon, responsible for, among other things, the data catalog, rolling it out to the enterprise to about 2,000 applications. For those of you who don't know who BNY Mellon is, we are a custodial bank. We have about $50 trillion under assets under custody and administration. So we are about I think the second largest bank in the world. We are the banker's bank. So we're not a retail bank. We are a custodial bank. So if you bank at JPMC or somewhere else, we are their bank, as well as the bank to the federal government. We were founded by Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, funny enough, and we've been in business a long time. We claim we invented the dollar bill. So what I was going to do is take you through a couple of things here. First is part of our journey. I wanted to give you a bit of an introduction to what we're doing with the data catalog. Then I want to talk about the drivers and the goals of leveraging our enterprise data catalog. I'm going to kind of discuss a couple of use cases specific to our bank and within BNY Mellon, and then review some milestones, some things that we've achieved over a period of time since we started this journey. And then talk a little bit about the future of enterprise data catalog at BNY Mellon. Give you a little bit of a teaspoon's taste of some of the lessons we've learned as we've gone through and implemented the catalog. And then just end with the what's up next. What are we doing next, and specifically around the data analytics associated with the new 10.4.1 of the catalog. So let's like into it. So a data catalog is an organization of inventory data assets. That's kind of how we look at it. We use it as a metadata repository to manage data. It also helps data collection and collect and organize and assess data. It's really key to our organization. Given that we have over 2,000 applications, it's really a great way for us to create a taxonomy around our data. We often use I usually use the local library as a metaphor, where we go into a library and we need a book. We look at the catalog. We try to understand where that book is located, which one is the context, the text that's most valuable in terms of it is an asset, which is the certified asset, where is it located, and so forth. The data catalog provides the same capability for us at BNY Mellon. It essentially stores objects in databases and reports, and we have quite a few of them currently, as you'll see in a little bit. But in terms of that analogy, we expand the power of that in the cataloging to cover every library in every country. So if you look at how we've done this across the entire enterprise, you take the little parochial libraries, where your book's located, and think about this across the globe. So every single asset that we have, it's a data asset. We've begun cataloging that, and it's really vital, important. So it's, our key drivers are really maintaining the list of assets, understanding where those assets are, and then serving them up to our internal and eventually external data consumers for purposes of data as a service. So, as I mentioned, some of our objectives are really in and around democratization of data. It's a really big key for us at the bank. We look at the catalog as an opportunity for us to answer questions like, where is my data? What's trusted data source? Are the data clean? If not, who owns the data? Essentially looking at frequencies and similarities of the data and looking at it and searching by data domains. We eventually think that monetizing the data through the catalog is going to be an important aspect of that. And so that's one of our goals and objectives as well. And the whole notion of demystifying the data, a lot of our data consumers at the bank, they ask a lot of questions around just where is the data, fundamental things like, again, if you were in a library, going back to that metaphor, and you were coming into the library, had no data, had no catalog, you'd have to start with book number 1 in the stack and go to book number N. Take a long time to do that. So the notion of demystifying that data is extremely critical to our way of thinking and our organization and how we can actually get data to the hands of different data consumers. So, what's some of the use cases within banking? So, some of our use cases, in the past few years, the concept of data catalog has obviously become very popular because of the increasingly large amounts of data that, we currently have, and as well as other institutions, and, how to access it. Things like cloud and big data analytics and AI and machine learning, those require a lot of data, and understanding where that data is critical. So things like discovery and curation and accessibility are very, very key, as well as cost savings and operational efficiency, and not to forget things like competitive advantages. So we believe that the catalog creates a competitive advantage for us because it allows us to get information or data to our data consumers, our analysts, our stewards, our CDOs much, much quicker. And by so doing, being able to take advantage of that data sooner. As an example, we've been doing some analysis within our firm on some of our attributes, and in the past it's taken several weeks, if not a month or so, to get access to that data within the catalog. We're able to do that within a day and a half. So, and the last piece of this is fraud and risk advantage. It's obviously a big thing for banks, as well as us, being a GSIFI, globally strategically important financial institution. So these are just a few of the use cases, as you can see here on the slide, that we are kind of in and around. So before I go to this, I'll talk a little bit about in terms of who uses our catalog and what they might ask or what they might do. So we classify our data consumers in terms of data engineers, data scientists, stewards, and our CDO. And within our data stewards, we have obviously data custodians, and it's sort of typical group of folks. So within the usage of the catalog itself, a data engineer, they want to know how any changes of the data will affect their system as a whole. They might ask things like, what's the impact of a schema change, or how different are application X from application Y in terms of data structures. That might be our security master database versus our client master. So they want to look at what's the differences between them. Those are the questions they typically ask. And data scientists want access to the data so they can know more about the quality of the data. Quality of data is extremely inherently important. Obviously, data is our lifeblood at the bank, and so understanding that quality is extremely paramount. So they may ask things like, where can I find and explore some data, some geolocation data? How easy how easy is it to access the data from the lake, and so on. And then finally, stewards, their mission with managing the data process. So they really care about things like concepts and agreements between stakeholders. So point of production, point of consumption, and managing the life cycle of that data is really key and really critical to them. So they might want to know things like, are we really improving the quality of our operational data? Have we defined standards for important key data elements, our critical data elements? And if we haven't, how can we establish that? What are the parameters? What are the rules of engagement to establish that? Clearly, looking in the catalog and looking at, for example, the frequencies in a specific PDEs or CDEs, physical data elements or critical data elements, it's very facile, very easy to see within the catalog where you stand from a data perspective, and then be able to action that based on whether the data is of good quality or not. And then finally, our chief data officer cares about who is doing what in the organization. So typically, they're interested in using the catalog, or having people of teams on their group using the catalog to answer questions like, who can access PII data, personally identifiable information, and what's our retention policy, as described by things like GDPR and BCBS 239, some of the Basel principles, and so on. So, next, on this slide, I want to talk a little bit about what our current milestones are. Sort of, what's our journey? Where are we right now? And so, just a couple of quick things here. We went live May 2020. So actually, May 2nd of 2020, we did an MVP where we had risk and our data lake, and we also included our securities masters and our client reference data. We went on to include our QFC, which is qualified financial contract information, as well as asset servicing. We're currently engaged with our corporate treasury teams, and we're onboarding all the corporate treasury applications as well. So there's quite a bit of data in there. As you can see, over 3 million data elements, over 250 different resources that have been scanned. And we have about 820 current users of the catalog, and they're quite happy with it. And some of the use cases I mentioned are billing and data contract development and review. So, this is, in a nutshell, kind of currently where we're at, and then what we're doing going forward. We think we're going to have, when all is said and done, about 5,000 users and about 2,000 applications. So it's going to be fairly extensive. So what's the future of EDC at BNY Mellon? We have quite a bit of capabilities, and what we're doing is we're harmonizing those capabilities. So we look at data catalog as one piece of it. There's data lineage, data quality, business glossary, and so on. They are essentially the capability elements that together create a holistic data governance ecosystem. And so with data catalog connected to lineage, I might, for example, go into the catalog and say, let me look at a particular physical data element. Now let me see what the lineage of that data element is. With EDC, you have the capability of doing that. And when you include things like data quality contracts and so forth, and include that in the data catalog and lineage, you now have the capability of understanding just where you have data quality rule issues and where you need to support those issues and be able to stitch them in. And of course, with the business glossary, being able to connect that together allows facile searching. You have much easier searching across. So these are all integrated components. And then when you have a layer of entitlement on top of that, and we have a bespoke application called Marketplace, where we bring clients, consumers, and data leaders through our organization into and expose all of these capabilities within one physical dashboard, if you will, so that they can actually seamlessly get to any of these capabilities across all of our data sources. It's a really powerful ecosystem that we have, that we develop. A lot of what you see here is already in place. The entitlements and so on in Marketplace, and we're harmonizing all of the applications now to create this cogent architecture. So the last thing I want to talk about here is specifically to 10.4.1 and data asset analytics. For us in BNY Mellon, how this helps us and how this will help us. We see that that the analytics provide some really neat insights into our assets and how we can best collaborate using those assets. So things like who's using it, how are they using it, and so forth. Which leads me to the second point in terms of we're federally we're regulated heavily regulated by the United States and globally, and so we have to constantly do things like auditing and attestation of our data assets. And one of those assets is actually the enterprise data catalog. So this really facilitates the ability to do that, because the data asset analytics will provide the reports and the information that we need. It's much easier to facilitate the attestation and the auditing process. And then nextly, improving data quality in context of offering data. We believe that being able to see who is using it, serving up those reports, understanding the usage, what kind of traverse, how they traverse the catalog and so forth, is really germane to their usage and how we can actually monetize the data eventually. And then enabling data owners and custodians to improve the data quality. So this is really, again, a really key thing for us, is that the data's been scanned, it's been profiled, it's in the catalog. That's great. You can make, depending on your use cases I mentioned before, who's going to use it, how they're going to use it, really important. Also important, and equally as important, is improving the overall quality of the data. So for us, it's about creating a taxonomy that allows us to search and understand the data, but also at the same time, it's about being able to have that sort of full cycle operating model where we can actually improve the quality of the data, therefore improve the overall efficiency, improve the overall usage of that data. And then it optimizes the data asset value, because ultimately it is a value. It's an asset within an organization like any other asset. As I said before at the beginning, for banking, as well as I think other organizations, data is an asset, needs to be treated like an asset, and we have to protect it and improve it.